Hello and welcome to this table podcast video of how to paint the Attack on Titan Ogres. So I painted a Warhammer Giant a while ago, and this I've got a lot of feedback on this where people have asked me not only about what colours I've used, but how I've actually done the scheme and things. So what I wanted to do is just share with you how I've gone about painting it. So I had a large Warhammer Ogre army collection. This is obviously one of the lead belchers, and this is what they looked like basically, with blue jeans on and the normal Bugman's Glow, Cadian Flesh and Kislev Flesh in terms of the colours. And then what I ended up with was something like this, and this is one of my Attack on Titan based ogres. This is obviously an Iron Gut, or for me Attack on Sky Titan is going to be my army. And I've tried to do obviously the flesh so it looks like they are skinless, and in addition we've repainted the trousers, because what I'm trying to do is keep quite a neutral colour. So if you look at the original Giant's trousers, you've got quite a neutral colour, so it doesn't distract from the skin. So the first stage is we use a base of Rhinox hide, and that is to give you the base of the flesh that we're going to paint over. Now obviously I paint over the old skin on the ogres, but obviously you can just go straight ahead and base with this. Now what I would say is normally people will recommend you water down your paints. In this instance I would recommend you don't water down your paints. The reason for that is because it's meant to look quite fleshy. You almost want that that thickness from the paint. You don't want it to look too thin. You want it to look quite thick in muscles and all the rest of it and stuff. Particularly as you start doing your highlights later, you actually want that effect. So I would just recommend doing that. Once you've done this, and this is the colour you can probably see here, it's still a bit wet. You're taking a 50-50 mixture of Rhinox hide and Screamer Pink. These are two base paints, but when you mix them together you get this, I suppose you can only call it a brown sludgy colour. And what you're doing here is you're painting all the muscle sections where you are going to put your stripes in a bit. So in this one, for example, I've left the dark brown in and I've picked out the muscles. So for example, if I was doing this one now, it's these bits I'd be picking out here. Sorry, these bits I'd be picking out, and I would be leaving in the middle bit, the creases if you like. Almost like dry brushing, shall we say, but you're just picking certain bits out. Once that's done, the first stage is to get your base stripes down. And that is done with just straight up Screamer Pink. So your 50-50 is just for the almost marking out of where you're going to put your muscles, and then your Screamer Pink directly is the first one. So I'm going to put Screamer Pink here. Again, I've not watered this down, and quite literally on your model we are just going to stripe. Now if these overlap, it doesn't really matter. The reason for that is because they will get several layers of highlights over them, and each layer will get more and more defined, and that is basically how you get your defined layer. The hardest bit of this stage is trying to work out which way you want your muscles. So if I look at this guy before, you'll see here some muscles come down, some are going horizontal, some are going vertical. There's obviously different groups of them, how they go across. So it's trying to work that out, because what you're doing here, basically you're almost like a dot to dot, you're mapping out how the rest of the model's going to look. And as you can see, I'm not being too careful here. I'm trying not to go in the creases, but I am making sure that I get a decent thickish line, shall we say. And I'm just going to keep going around here. Now once you've done your thickish lines, again, just cover his chest and go left to right here. So again, on this stage, it doesn't really look fantastic, if I'm being honest. But what you're going to end up with is something that looks like this. And once this is done, you'll be able to see you've got that base of all the stripes, which is what we're going to build on top of to get to here. So that's stage 1. I'm just going to finish off painting these, and I'll come back with stage 2 for you. Hello and welcome to part 2 of painting Attack on Titan Ogres. So in part 1 we basically use a 50-50 mixture of Rhinoxide, whatever it is, and Screamer Pink. We then use Screamer Pink to paint some relatively thick stripes, muscles. And now we're going to move on to trying to detail this muscle a little bit more. I don't know why I've got that brush, because that is a dead brush. Let's get a proper brush. There we go. Nice new tip on that brush. The colours that we do use for this is we have Screamer Pink and then Wazdaka Red. They're used in a 50-50 combination. Once they're done, I then use a 50-50 combination of Wazdaka Red and Pink Horror. Once that's done, I then use a 50-50 you like the words 50-50 combination of Pink Horror and Cadian Flesh Tone. And then for the final highlight, it's basically dots, in fact you can see in the bottom here where I've been mixing previously, it's basically dots of flesh tone on the very, very tips of highlights. And they're the colours basically is what we use, as well as Rhinoxide. They're the 4 colours that we use. So I've done a bit of a mixture here of Wazdaka Red and Screamer Pink. And basically what we're going to do is be very, very careful. And we're just going to go over those lines, but we are going to be a lot more careful now. So as we do this, I want to make sure there's always paint on the brush, and you always paint in the same direction. The reason why you always paint in the same direction, basically, is when you come to do your highlights on these models, as you can see, you make sure the highlight's always going top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom. So what it also means is as you get the paint on your brush, the top will be slightly thicker, which means it's easier to do your highlights later on. So again, let's just get these stripes going. It also means the end of your stripe tails off and helps it just to blend in with the colour below. Now you can see that I've not actually kept on the thick stripes that are below, but I've started making new ones which are slightly thinner, and this is why you need to keep a good tip on your brush. And every time we do with this 50-50, you're not going to go as far down, and you're going to get thinner and thinner and thinner. So what you've done so far is do the base stripes, and now you're actually doing the detail ones, so that by the end of it you've got a very defined muscle set basically. And then once this is done, you can see the one on the right, it's a bit more done, and it picks out some of the muscles. So I'm going to carry on doing this now. Obviously if you want to skip ahead to part 3, you're more than welcome, but otherwise I am just going to keep painting these stripes. Let's just do it here. Just keep going top to the bottom, and whichever stripes I do now, these are, if you like, my final ones. So I know, as I say, they don't match 100% to the base coat stripes I did last time, but this is now where whatever you paint now is what you've defined for the rest of the model. As I say before as well, last time, when I mix the paints, I'm not bothering to water them down. I am doing them off a palette, but they are not watered down. I'm just doing them straight from the pot, mixed 50-50. Again, this is to keep it relatively thick paint, just to give it a bit of texture in terms of flesh and skin. Because obviously you don't have skin, this is the closest your guys are going to get. Little nipple, there we go. And I'm just going to keep doing this all over the model until they're done. And then once he's done, as I say, The next stage is a mixture of Wazdaka Red and Pink Horror, and I'll show you that in a second. But as I say, these stripes, then you just keep going in the same direction, and you just make sure every time you do it, your stripes are getting thinner and thinner, and a lighter and lighter colour, and not going all the way. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I'll be back with part 3 shortly.